All right, listen up. We're here today to declare war on a lie, a deeply flawed belief that's holding you back. What you see on your screen right now, that's not a suggestion, it is a fact. JLPT listening is not about talent, it's a battle, and you win it with strategy.
So let me ask you a direct question. Are you making excuses? Are you blaming your listening score on some fuzzy idea of talent? Let's get one thing straight. That mindset is your first and greatest enemy. It's a weakness you've put on yourself, and today we are going to get rid of it.
Now, here's the single most critical point. You need to absorb this command because it's the key to your entire campaign. You do not have to understand every single word. In fact, thinking you should is a huge mistake in your approach. So many people panic during the test the second they miss a word. And you know what? That is a complete waste of energy. Not hearing something isn't a failure of your ears.
Here is our battle plan for today. We're going to move through 6 phases. First, we'll establish that strategy crushes talent. Then we'll analyze the enemy, the test itself. Third, we'll arm you mentally. Fourth, we'll drill down on practical combat tactics. Fifth, we'll prove that your environment is irrelevant. And finally, your last command. So pay attention.
Okay, section 1. Listening isn't talent, it's strategy. Let's completely dismantle this idea that some people are just born good at this. Victory is forged, it's not inherited. Look, the real reason you miss a word has nothing to do with your hearing. It's a data problem. Plain and simple. The vocabulary word you're trying to hear just isn't installed in your brain yet. Trying to hear a word you don't know is like trying to find a word in a dictionary that was never printed in it. It's impossible. So wasting your mental energy on a missed word, that's a huge tactical error. You have to learn to cut your losses and move on. Instantly.
Section 2, analyze the enemy. You can't defeat an opponent you don't understand. And trust me, the JLPT listening test is a very, very specific kind of opponent.
Do not make the fatal mistake of thinking this test is just a conversation. This slide shows you exactly why it's not. In a real conversation, you get facial expressions, hand gestures, a whole ton of visual data. But the test, it gives you none of that. It's audio only. It's a one-way broadcast of information. You know what it really is? It has the exact same structure as a phone call. And because you're fighting in this artificial environment, your arsenal is limited. These are your only weapons: vocabulary, grammar, and your ability to process context. That's it. This is precisely why that common advice to just talk more or watch more movies is such an inefficient strategy for test prep. It's not a total lie, but it's dangerously misleading. If you really wanted to replicate test conditions, you'd have to watch an anime for the very first time, in Japanese, while blindfolded. You have to understand the conditions of the battle you're in. Section 3, mental armament for victory. Now that we understand the enemy, we have to prepare your mind. Your psychological fortitude is absolutely paramount. Let's talk about a concept from cognitive psychology called attentional resources. Think of your attention like a finite supply of fuel or ammunition. Every single second you spend stuck on a word you missed, you are burning that fuel for absolutely nothing. It is a catastrophic waste. Dwelling on one tiny failure causes your entire mental processing system to crash. The correct strategic move is to discard it and move on, immediately. Now, here is a critical piece of battlefield intelligence. The answer choices on the page, they are the trailer for the movie you're about to hear. Before that audio even starts, you must read them. Memorize the key nouns and verbs. Why? Because the words written right there are guaranteed to show up in the audio. This creates a prediction in your brain. It's a process called top-down processing. And it is infinitely more efficient to listen with a prediction already in your head than to listen from zero. Section 4, practical memo-taking tactics. This is your core combat strategy for those questions that don't give you any multiple-choice options. But this presents a paradox, right? You're told to take notes, but how on earth can you write down what's important when you haven't even heard the full context yet? It's impossible to know. So what's the solution? Here is the command sequence. You will follow it precisely. 1. Write what you hear in the order you hear it. Do not try to judge if it's important. Just write. 2. You must anticipate falling behind. Your hand is not going to keep up with the audio speed. This is not a failure. This is an expected, necessary part of the strategy. 3. Do not panic. The moment you feel that pang of disappointment, you have fallen into the enemy's trap. That feeling is actually proof the strategy is working. And 4. When you inevitably fall behind, you switch modes. Your hand stops and your brain takes over.
focusing 100% on mentally retaining the rest of the information. So, here's the big secret. The purpose of the memo is not to write everything down. If that were the goal, this strategy would be a complete failure. No, its true purpose is far more intelligent. To get it, you have to understand something called working memory. Think of it as a small whiteboard inside your brain. It has a very, very limited capacity for holding information while you're trying to work with it. And the listening test? Well, it's a high-stress, multitasking environment specifically designed to overload your working memory and cause a total system failure. And this is how our memo strategy defeats that problem. We are distributing the cognitive load. By writing down the first half of the audio, you are offloading that data from your brain's fragile little whiteboard onto the paper. It's like using an external hard drive. This frees up 100% of your mental capacity to focus on capturing and retaining the second half of the audio. This isn't a guess. It's a cognitively sound strategy to maximize your brain's limited resources. Section 5. Strategy is everything, not environment. We're now going to broaden our view from battlefield tactics to the entire war campaign. Now look at this data. This is based on my own experience, but it holds true. It's almost impossible to find someone who's lived in Japan for 20 years and gets a perfect score on the listening test. They are incredibly rare. Meanwhile, a student living abroad with hardly any daily exposure to Japanese can hit a score of 45–50% with just a little bit of strategic study each week. So what does this tell you? It tells you this, and this is the definitive conclusion. Listening is decided by strategy, not by environment. The idea that you have to be immersed in Japan to succeed is a complete myth. Your victory is determined by your method of attack, period. And this truth leads to two critical commands. First, if you are studying outside of Japan, you have zero reason to feel an inferiority complex. You are not at a disadvantage. And second, if you are in Japan, do not get arrogant. Do not think for a second that just being here will get you a high score. That is complacency, and that is weakness. And now, Section 6, your final command. I've said some harsh things to you today. I have been demanding, and there's a reason for it. This isn't a game. We are training for victory, and that requires discipline. It requires stripping away all of your comfortable illusions. I am saying all of this for one simple reason, because you are capable. You do not lack ability. You lack strategy. You lack the correct battle plan. The JLPT listening section is not a measure of your talent. It is a test, and a test can be beaten. The only question left is whether you will choose to implement the strategy and fight. The choice is yours.